Erwin Bauer, Ivan's Beauty. Ivan's Beauty Plus. Here are the harvests. Well, the vines had died on a couple of squash plants. I took the squash. And I took one of those pumpkins. They were hanging from a tree. The vine was looking kind of weak too. Looks pretty nice. We have a nice corn cob laying there on the ground. So last year I did an experiment with sweet corn and achira growing together, but I only had, I don't know, 2 or 3 plants of achira and 1 or 2 corn. And this year I decided to plant more achira, and I had a pretty dense planting here that you see behind me. And I also put in a couple of seeds of sweet corn. This is Loft House Paradise sweet corn, and it grew very well. And I'm only surprised because I made compost that had a large amount of wood shavings in it. And I had the idea from various readings I've done that if you have a high amount of carbon, like in the form of wood, that it takes a lot of nitrogen to decompose that wood. And I ran these wood shavings through the normal compost that I'm doing every year, and you can see it on YouTube. I got all kinds of playlists up and whatever. Aerobic compost, AEROBIC, aerobic compost. Oxygenated compost, where I'm turning it every 2 to 3 days to keep oxygen in the pile. And that composting method must have broke those wood shavings down completely, and then started to release the nitrogen, and plus all that bacteria produces nitrogen. What we probably have here is nitrogen that it's feeding these corn that's all natural, 100% natural nitrogen from plants. So kind of amazing. And same thing with the achira. It's got to be a heavy nitrogen feeder, because look at all the leaves that are on those plants. You know, right over here, just look at that. And this compost feeding it all. Of course, you know, I put some minerals in here too. I had deep earth minerals and ancient ocean minerals, and I had wood ash, and I do double burnt bones, and that was in there. So I don't know, that probably all played a role to having the plants be healthy and the bacteria. But now I want to pick this corn. I'm kind of pushing it. I always have some critter come along that wants to eat it. I'm going to pick these first, and then I'm going to show you what I do, or what I'm doing this year anyway. Even in this dense shade of all this achira in here, I got a corn cob. Ain't much, but it's a yield. There's another one here, a real little one here. I think that's it. There's another one. Yeah, there's another one. One of the corns I had to stake up because it was falling over too. I didn't want to pick it yet. Plus, battery went dead. Oh, this one doesn't have much. Oh, it has a couple. It's growing in that achira. This is what we got. We got a cob that doesn't have any on this side. But then we got some pretty good corn. So I'm going to dry this, hang it up by its leaves, and dry it. And what I'm going to do is, in the wintertime, like I was talking about, I'm going to go ahead and just take my hand and just get it off the cob, and I will ferment a ½ pint at a time. So this lacto fermenting, you just put the corn in there. The corn is dried, so you got hard corn seed. I'm going to fill up a half pint with the corn seed. I'm going to put in 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to fill it with spring water. Ooh, this is a nice cob right here. and some wood ash. And I'm going to shake it up a couple times every day, burp out the pressure that's happening. And in 5 days or so, these corn seed will have swelled up to twice their size, and the wood ash should have eroded the skins, the hardened skins on the seed, and actually dissolved them. And then it'll be like hominy, or it will be hominy. And I will add a little bit in my meal for breakfast. So that half pint, oh, I just ripped the skin off that one. Gotta be careful of this one here. The leaves there. So it's not about having huge sums of corn, it's about adding a little bit for that nutrients that the corn provides, because the nutrients in the corn isn't enough to feed us or to nourish us, but there's some elements in corn that are good to add to the meal. And my original goal was to make food for all my breakfasts all year long. Of course, I'm way beyond that now. But now my goal is to diversify the food that I'm eating for breakfasts in the morning. And this is how I'm going to hang it in my living room. I'll just get I think I got a cord right here. This is a baling string for baling straw together. I'll just hang it by this in my living room. I've got 10 of them in there that are drying out right now. I mentioned that already. This will be 5 more. And this will add corn for probably 20 or 30 breakfasts. There. Wonder if I can get a picture of that without looking like I'm bending over the camera. There. That's pretty cool. Well, I have to work my way into this Hopi corn patch. It's also growing pumpkins and tomatoes. I think I better pick the corn that's ready to go, because I'm tempting fate. Something's going to come along, like a possum or a raccoon. They're going to do the work for me. But some of them are still wanting to make a little corn, so I'm not going to take the stalks. Just the corn. This one here grew three stalks. I gotta unwind this and show this to you. Before I do anything, I gotta flip that screen around. There, I can see what I'm showing you. So I had to stick a fork in the ground here, and then I tied this corn stalk to the fork because it was bent. It was just laying on the ground because it's too much weight with all these ears and all these stalks that it was trying to support. I'm going to show you this now. Backwards. So here's the fork handle, you can see. Now I'm going to bring this one stalk forward. This actually one single stalk that comes out of the ground. And right here it splits. Now there's 2 stalks, and one stalk here is ending in a corn cob that's just starting to send out some silk. And then this one goes off and makes a corn at the end of it, and this one does the same thing. Actually, this one makes, now this is the main one here. This one goes up to the top. So here's a corn that is growing out of the main stalk, and then there's a 3rd stalk that's split. No, this would be the 4th stalk that's split, and there's a corn on top of that. Jeez. So there's 1, 2, 3. There's 3 that I could pick that I have the silk is all dried at the top, and there's another one that's starting to grow again. 1, 2, 3. I thought there was 4, so I must have counted. Maybe it was laying against this one, and I was counting this one inadvertently. So that's pretty wild. I'm going to grab the camera and make a close-up of this stalk that splits. I haven't seen that before. But this is heirloom corn, so you know, it probably has lots and lots of diversity to it. So here we come. You see it's one single stalk here. Coming up right here. Then it splits. So here's one split, and this is a new cob that it's growing right here. Then we come up here and it splits again. And here's a cob at the end of that. Split. And then we have another one that splits off on this side, and here's a cob at the end of that split. And then there's a cob on the main stem that goes up to the pollen. Craziness. So that's what we're doing. We're going to take those off of there right now. Ooh, I might have to go get a pruning shears. Yeah. Oh, I got her. Look at all the leaves on that thing. Just nuts. Let's see what kind of corn it made. So I don't want to just shuck this thing totally of its leaves. I want to have the leaves stay on the cob because that's how I'm going to hang it. And as these leaves dry out, it's going to suck the moisture out of that cob. Because we're not expecting miracles because so many cobs are growing on one stalk, but that ain't too bad right there. Look at it. A little bit of blank spots on over there. That one is growing on the main stalk. Look at all those leaves, just nuts. I actually checked on it and I tied it to hide the corn. It's definitely a lot darker now than when I checked it. Ooh, so this one's missing a lot of corn. On one side anyway. Hey, that one's missing a lot of corn right there. But there's still a lot of corn on there. Can't get over all the leaves on the corn itself. Just look at it. Not too bad. Get all 3 of them on this one now. Okay, this one isn't quite dry yet. We'll leave that one hanging. Get our fork over here. Okay, what else? We got this one that has a really tall one. Oh, we got one on the ground here too. We gotta prop this one up. get it here in the... Yeah, that'll work like that. Let's see what these are here. I probably could have went a little longer too. But I'm only going to be eating them, so no big deal. Yeah, here's an experiment. We'll see. That'll color up and dry out right. This one here feels good. Oh, wasn't even close. Oops. And maybe that's the color it was going to be. So much variability that that's what I got. Look at it. That's blue hoppy white corn. There. 5, 6, 7 that I haven't picked. I picked 5, so we hedged our bets. We got 5 of them anyway. I'm out here in the sun, do a little pre-hang before we bring them inside. Some of them are pretty wet. So I like this. I think this white stuff is done. That's probably the color it was going to be. And we got our little loft house corns. They're going to hang out here until it starts to rain. It's supposed to rain later. Then I'll bring them into the house. With this wind and sun, that'll give them a good quick dry. Alright. Boy, this is really an interesting one. Big cob too. Huh. Well, we'll review a little bit on main crop garden number 3. I just dug up a few potatoes out of here. And a meager harvest, but it's in total shade here. And even the littlest harvest is still a yield. Especially since the potato plants I put in there were free. But these are the yacons that I planted. And this is the plant that I was worried about getting too much shade. Thinking that it wouldn't bulb up at all. And you can see that it has grown up pretty tall and it's getting morning sunlight. Probably up until about 10 o'clock. Maybe a little afternoon sunlight yet. So it'll be interesting to see how much of a bulb we had on this. And when you're thinking about how the earth tilts towards the sun, and of course its peak here is I don't know, June 21st. They call that summer solstice. There the sun is nearly directly overhead, so even when it was small, it was getting sunlight. But now as the sun is tilting away, and as we enter fall equinox, it's going to tilt away very quickly. Now it's going to get a lot less sun because of this peach tree. But it has grown tall enough to get some. So we'll find out if it bulbs up. So our next ones in line, they're getting more sun because they're farther away from the peach tree. And I let a thistle grow here for the goldfinch. And then over here we got lots of yacon that's getting lots of sun. See all these stems here, they're all going to have bulbs under them. I'm expecting, so at least I think since 2013 I've been doing this and they all have bulbs every year. And those bulbs are just delicious to eat. This one has a big thick stalk. This one I expect to have a big bulb. We'll see. I normally dig them out the day before going to have a killing frost. We got a long way to go. And I think I'm expecting a late frost this year, like in November. So they'll have lots of time to even bulb up even further. Kind of neat, huh? And over here I planted, I know scarlet runners, and then I think I planted a few other ones. This might be some type of a lima bean here. But look at that. Big, huge pods on them. I'm going to eat one and see what it tastes like. Oh, very mealy. A little sweet yet. Those seeds are going to be interesting looking, aren't they? Look at that.
Got a little leverage on that pole. Oops, I think I broke a yak gun in here. Sure I did. Somebody told me the leaves are edible. I never heard of that. There are my potato plants. I'll have to look that up. I'll look it up. And here's a peach tree. The one here on the east side, it's got lots of peaches on it. Well, you can't see that from the sun. My lenses are all screwed up. Get away from the sun there. You can at least see the shadows of the peaches. Got some grapes ripening in here. These are Canadas. Surprised birds haven't got them all picked clean. Well, we had a terrible crop of Japanese beetles this year. And just devastated the leaves. But I'm still going to get a crop of grapes, it appears. I'm going to be digging this grapevine out too. I'm going to kind of give up on grapes because they're so high maintenance. I love these grapes. They're just delicious. They're seedless. But everything wants to eat this thing. So I don't want those. Those are moldy. We'll let other people grow the highly labor-intensive stuff. I want to grow the stuff that's odd. The critters haven't adapted to. Yep. Yacon being one, these beans being another. Just marvelous. Marvelous crop. I've been fermenting these for last winter. Of course, you got dry beans, right? And I put them in a half pint. I filled a half pint up halfway, and put a little salt in there and spring water, and then let them swell up and lacto ferment. I've been doing it for just 3 days, but now I've learned I could do it for 30 days. And what I also learned to do is, I think I actually did this. This will be my third winter coming up, so 2 winters I've done it. And this winter I learned that, this last winter, after 3 days they're pliable and you can cut them in half and slip them out of their skin. And then the meat is what you eat, because the skin tastes kind of tinny. That's probably where a lot of lectin is yet. And so then what I'm going to do this winter is, after 3 days of fermenting, I'm going to take them out of the skin, and then I'm going to ferment the meat again. Another 3 to 5 days. Then it'll be used as an ingredient in breakfasts. So I got 2 pretty big batches of climbing beans, and I've got a couple of them that are scattered around. Anyway, there's my hat. Put my hat on. The sun is pretty intense without all the airplane emissions in the atmosphere. So we got a good crop. We already got a crop of loft house beans from underneath the Yacon. It wasn't much, but it was a yield. Now we took a little crop of potatoes out of here. Wasn't much, but it's a yield. Got 4 seed potatoes out of it, and 1 breakfast of potatoes. Next up is going to be those dry beans. So when the plants start to die back, I'll take those out of there. I actually like to snip them off, leave the roots in the ground, because they fix nitrogen, so now nitrogen's in the ground. Then I hang them up by their plants in the shed for a couple days or a week or whenever I want to get at it. And then I shell them out, sometimes months later. Alright. I had an elderberry growing here that was just magnificent, but it was attracting all kinds of birds and flies, and the birds were starting to eat everything else, so I cut it off. that's okay. I got a lot of sticks in the ground that's rooting. And I'm going to transplant all those up north where I want birds. Now I'm going to get sunlight in the main crop garden number 2. I got some potatoes in there that, again, we're growing in dense shade. I think I'll get a shovel and take a stab at a couple of them, see just what they've done. These are Shashandra berries. They're bitter. They're very healthy for you. They're not ripe yet. When they're ripe, I'm just going to eat them straight up. This is where the potatoes were planted, and I had a crop of corn in here that I already took. Oh, I see a potato already, and it's green because it's been exposed to the sun. So that one I'll save as a seed. There's corn stalk left there. Come out of the ground. It's junk. So this one here I left here because a bean had used it as a trellis. She inked on this potato plant here. And I guess that's pretty good. One plant, a couple of them there laying on the ground yet. So I've had potatoes growing in the shade. It ain't doing so good, but when they're in the sun, voila. More. Nice ones too. There's the harvest of masquerades out of that approximately 2 square foot area. That's pretty good. These are masquerades. Some of them got a little green. Didn't notice they're above ground, but I can save those for seed. The rest of them are going to be yummy. Oh, I forgot I had a contender peach in here. It's right in the middle of the food forest. There's a couple peaches on it. I see 1, 2, 3. 2 right there and 1 over here. There it is. Boy, it's got to be pretty ripe. I'm gonna get the ladder. Came right off in my hand. Look at that. First peach of the year right here. Should be a law against this. Oh, it's just juicy. Wow. I'm sorry to make you watch this. Gotta save that pit. Plant it. Holy cow. That's the first peach that this tree's grown for me. You know, it's probably 5 or 6 years old. I was kind of weak looking. Now it's just covered in grapevine. Grapevine's kind of pulling it down. Well, we'll let it happen. Why not? Let's see about this other peach here. I can get up at it.
just can't reach it. I hate to go up on this next round. Ooh, I don't want to do this. Not be able to hang on. Alright, oh, I can grab the tree and bring it down to me. Here we go. Now I don't have to get on there. Yeah, I can feel it soft. Wow. That's a smaller one. They're ragged looking, but boy, they're sweet.